All right, okay. Assalamu alaikum. Hope you're all well. Let's have a look at what we have here. Nobody in the comments. That was actually a first when I came on. No salams from the regular guys. No problema. Hey, assalamu alaikum, Muhammad Hassan. Hope you're well. Okay, we have around 4 viewers now. Let me get my little presentation started. Excuse the fireworks outside. Let's put that in full screen mode. All right, hope you're all well. Assalamu alaikum, Iron Man, good to see you, as always. Roman, hope you're well, and Muhammad Hassan. Looks like it's just us three. All right, cool. All right, so without further ado, I suppose I'll get straight on with it. It's a short, quick presentation this time. Wait a minute, just give me 1 second, please. All right, let's get on with it. So what I've chosen to talk about today is there are 2 verses in the Quran where God mentions that some people on the Day of Judgment will testify then, only then, that they were Kafireen, that they were Kafireen. وَشَهِدُوا عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ أَنَّهُمْ كَافِرِينَ. And it seems to be that they were unaware that they were Kafireen until the Day of Judgment, right? So let's look at that. And I'm going to be looking, of course, a lot of the verses in the Quran, they can be looked at in a very wide way, where you look at them, how they apply to Muslims or non-Muslims. I'm going to be looking at them as how they can apply to Muslims, because most of the Quran is directed towards Muslims, right? It's not directed, against everybody else, right? Even the criticism, a lot of it in the Quran is about those who are following the messenger and those who would consider to be Muslim. So let's look at the verses, start from verse 129 in Surah Al-An'am, and we'll go forward until we get to a relevant part. So it says here, وَكَذَلِكَ نُوَلِّي بَعْضَ الظَّالِمِينَ بَعْضًا بِمَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ. And thus will we make some of the wrongdoers allies of others. It says here for what they used to do, but I think it's close to say by what they used to do. Okay, by what they used to earn, what they used to do. This again reminds us that it's all about action. And the verses before that are talking about, on Day of Judgment, when God will say, gathering of jinn and men, right? Especially jinn, you are more than the men. قد استكثرتم من الإنس. And then they will say how they enjoyed each other. Okay, so here it is anyway. So it says here the next verse, يا معشر الجن والإنس, O company of jinn and mankind. Now here, like Hassan al-Maliki and others, they have the opinion that jinn means the hidden leaders. So those who are the leadership positions, but they are hidden from sort of like the general public, because jinn comes from the meaning of to be hidden, right? To be sort of concealed. So it says here, ma'ashar al-jinn wal-ins. Now, I'm by the way, I'm not convinced on that. Okay, I'm just taking just jinn and ins as it is. Generally, it's used to mean, the other intelligent beings, spirits, like shaitan, kana min al-jinn, right? Shaitan was one of the jinn. يا معشر الجن والإنس ألم يأتيكم رسل منكم يقصون عليكم آياتي وينذرونكم لقاء يومكم هذا. So there's God asking, O company of jinn and mankind, did there not come to you messengers from among you, relating to you my verses and warning you of the meeting of this day of yours? They will say, what will they say? What will the answer be for these people who are, punished? قالوا شهدنا على أنفسنا. Okay, they will say, we bear witness against ourselves. We bear witness against ourselves. Yes, it's true. And then the commentary of that, وَغَرَّتْهُمُ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا. The worldly life deluded them. Okay, وَغَرَّتْهُمُ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيا. And وَشَهِدُوا. So the first one is شَهِدُوا عَلَى أَنفُسِهِم. They just testified against themselves. In general, it doesn't say what exactly. But here it says, وَشَهِدُوا عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ أَنَّهُمْ كَانُوا كَافِرِينَ. It says, and they will bear witness, or they bared witness, because it's speaking about a time in the future. So they bared witness against themselves that they were kafirin. It's only then that they bear witness that they were kafirin. Before that, they didn't know. Okay, before that, they didn't know. They never considered themselves to be kafirin, right? And that's one of the things to get you have a broader view of what kufr means, right? The idea that kufr is just, somebody who knows. Just give me 1 second, hold on. Sorry, I had to deal with the kids a bit. All right, so, I forgot my train of thought now. So shahadu ala anfusihim, they considered themselves to be kafirin only then. Only then did they testify that to themselves. So this idea that kufr means just rejecting something that you definitely know. Okay, then of course in that case the kafir knows that he's a kafir. Right? The kafir knows that he's a kafir. He knows the truth and he's deliberately rejecting it. No, that isn't. Remember I said about these terms. I think you should think of them as like 3D concepts, rather than having a one-line definition for them. Kufr is you can see it in various different forms. It's not only in one form. Like I said, I always give the example of love. You can't give just one definition of love, right? Which is completely free from error, right? And just like you can't describe a 3D object only from the front. No, you'll be able to see it from the left, the right, from above, from below, from behind. Okay, and it will look different from each of those positions, but it is still nevertheless one object. Right? So that the same way you should think about some of these concepts, these higher concepts, that are more three-dimensional. It's not gonna a linear definition, because all of our speech is a linear. One word follows another word, follows another word. Right? The way our linear language works, they can't encapsulate these concepts fully. But let's go to the next verse. So the first verse was وَكَذَلِكَ نُوَلِّي بَعْضَ الظَّالِمِينَ بَعْضًا. So it's telling you that some of them are allies to the others. Okay, so remember this. نُوَلِّي بَعْضَ الظَّالِمِينَ بَعْضًا بِمَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ. By what they used to earn, what they used to do. Okay, they say يَا مَعْشَرَ الْجِنِّ وَالْإِنسِ. Okay, أَلَمْ يَأْتِكُمْ رُسُلٌ مِنْكُمْ. They did not come to you messengers from among you rehearsing their signs. Okay, and in other verses, of course, it talks about وَقَالَ أَوْلِيَاؤُهُم مِنَ الْجِنِّ. The allies from the jinn said. Okay, so the alliance has been mentioned over here is between the jinn and the ins. Okay, the jinn and the ins is what's been mentioned here. We bear no witness against ourselves that they were kafirin. Okay, what about the next verse? It said ذلك أن لم يكن ربك مهلك القرى بظلم وأهلها غافلون. That is because your Lord would not destroy the cities or the townships for wrongdoing, for oppression, for dhulm, while their people were unaware. So again, their people were unaware of what? Okay, in this case, God would not these guys were unaware that they were kafirin. If we take this reading, that only on the day of judgment they will realize that they were indeed kafirin. So what are they being destroyed? They could be destroyed for. It's not because of their kufr, okay, but their wrongdoing, right? And again, that comes back to the first verse we saw. You might kind of explain what they used to do. So in life, they may have had no self-awareness that they were kafirin, but they were indeed self-aware. They had the awareness of what they did, no matter how they justify it with lies attributed to God. So they could have lies attributed to God, right, and they can justify it to make themselves think that they are not kafirin. So there will be people who come on Day of Judgment, they think they are believers. They think they will be there and mu'mineen. That's what they think. But they will come and they realize that no, they were actually Kafireen in the world. Okay, they think they were people of faith, but they weren't, right? And it would be clear if they had, not denied, if they had, kept the signs of God forefront. Okay, but instead they took allies from the jinn and ins. They took allies from the jinn and ins, and because of that, they put what they said above God's words, right? And that's what made them kafirin, even though they thought that they were mu'mineen, they were people of faith. So they will think that they had a justification for these wrong actions. Only on the day of judgment they will finally realize that their excuses were just excuses, and they were in fact denying the signs. Okay, so this is like another verse in the Quran, this verse here, which I've mentioned in a few videos before. It says, يَوْمَ يَبْعَثُهُمُ اللَّهُ جَمِيعًا فَيَحْلِفُونَ لَهُ كَمَا يَحْلِفُونَ لَكُمْ. Okay, on the day when He will resurrect them all, and they will swear to Him. They will be swearing to Allah, by Allah, we were not kafirin. And there are verses like this as well. So here that we're talking about how they testified that they are kafirin. There are verses where they will say, Wallahi Rabbina ma kunna mushrikeen. By our Lord, we were not mushrikeen. No, they were mushrikeen. They were mushrikeen. But in this case, okay, we're talking about that they will come on Day of Judgment and they will swear to God, just like they swear to us now. These people, they are, you have to try to see these verses and see that see these verses as alive. There are people like this now, around us now. Okay, and you should try to identify them. You should be able to identify them. These people who swear to us now, they will swear to God just like they swear to us now, and they think they have something. وَيَحْسِبُونَ أَنَّهُمْ عَلَى شَيْءٍ. Okay, they will think that they are standing upon something. But it says here, أَلَا إِنَّهُمْ هُمُ الْكَاذِبُونَ. Okay, indeed that they are the kadhibun. So these same people will be swearing on the Day of Judgment to God. No, but in the end, it will be shown to them, and they will testify against themselves that they were indeed kafirin. So we have kafirin even now swearing to us that they are upon the haqq, the truth, that they are leading us to the right way, etc. Okay. Now let's look at, and this is the last verse. Sorry, the last verse in that sequence. So I started these verses from verse 129 in Surah Al-An'am. Okay, so that's 129, 130, 131, and this is just an extra which I was relating to it. And the last verse makes you again understand that it's all about the actions. وَلِكُلٍّ دَرَجَاتٍ مِمَّا عَمِلُوا وَمَا رَبُّكَ بِغَافِلٍ عَمَّا يَعْمَلُونَ. And for all of them, there are degrees, darajat, from what they used to do, because of what they used to do. وَلِكُلٍّ دَرَجَاتٍ مِمَّا عَمِلُوا, by what they did. وَمَا رَبُّكَ بِغَافِلٍ عَمَّا يَعْمَلُونَ. Okay, and your Lord is not unmindful about what they used to do. It's all about the actions. Okay, so the kufr that they were unaware of was to do with actions. It's to do with actions. Okay. So the next verse I wanted to look at, which mentions this idea that they testified that they were kafirin. Okay, this verse at the end of it here again, you'll see again how it's related again to this idea of the awliya of the jinn and the ins. They will come up in the verses afterwards, but the first part of it is very key. فَمَنْ أَظْلَمُ مِمَّنِ افْتَرَى عَلَى اللَّهِ كَذِبًا أَوْ كَذَّبَ بِآيَاتِهِ. And who is more unjust than the one who invents about Allah a lie or denies His verses, denies His signs? Okay, so there are those who invent lies against Allah. Okay, these people will be believed and they will be followed. Okay, because you invent a lie, you're going to be, you follow it. All right. So we're talking about including the hadith and narrations and all of these kind of fatwas and stuff. Man أظلم ممن افترى على الله كذبا. Okay, or كذب بآياته, or denied the signs. So so when you are receiving lies about Allah, okay, from somebody who is inventing lies about God, all right, and then that lie comes to you, and you already have the verses, the ayat of Allah, and then you accept the lie and reject the verses. What are you doing? You're rejecting the verses. This is it. This is you. This is the second part. Okay, so this person does this. He rejects the verses because he's preferring the lie that comes to him, the lie that has been done to God. So these are two sides of the same coin. Okay, two sides of the same coin. A lie is produced. Okay, and then some other person will accept the lie and reject the verses of Allah because of that lie. Okay. Then what it says here, أولئك ينالهم نصيبهم من الكتاب. Those will attain a portion of their decree, of the kitab. So it's like the ordinance. Okay. But that's not what I want to focus on here. حتى, okay, until إذا جاءتهم رسلنا يتوفونهم, until our messengers come to them, they يتوفونهم, cause them to die, the angels, right? قالوا, they said to them, أينما كنتم تدعون من دون الله. So this again, it says, where were those that you called upon other than Allah? أينما كنتم تدعون من, who were those who you used to invoke other than Allah? I've mentioned this before, that the dua تدعون من دون الله is about invoking those others. So invoking these people who lied, they're invoking their lives. Okay, you're invoking, like when you say you invoke the law, it's the same, that sort of sense, right? So it's still related to this. Okay, we haven't turned away to now talking about those who call upon idols or inanimate statues. It's still, we're talking about these people. أولئك ينالهم نصيبهم من الكتاب حتى إذا جاءتهم رسلنا يتوفونهم. They cause them to die. قالوا أينما كنتم تدعون من دون. Where are those they used to invoke besides God, besides Allah? They say قالوا ضلوا عنا. Okay, now ضلوا عنا. We don't have. They are departed from us. They have departed from us. We can't. They're not there. We can't see them. They're not with us. Okay, they can't help us. Right? Meaning what? In life they were there. In life they could invoke them. In life these names mattered. Okay, in life these names mattered. Imam so-and-so, Sheikh so-and-so, the fatwa of so-and-so, the hadith of so-and-so, these mattered. Okay, the people who narrated and this and this and that, no, they mattered. But over there, no, they're gone. All right, because what what God will ask about, it's not going to be about the iftira. It's not going to be about the lies that were made. He's going to ask about the ayat. Alam takun ayati tutla alaykum. Were not my signs recited to you? That's what God is going to ask about. Okay, just check that the stream is going okay. Right, God is going to ask about the signs. So then when these people are gone and they're left with just this iftira is no longer there, right? They're left with only, did you follow this verse or not? Okay, all that stuff is gone. All that stuff is gone. The hadith, the narrations, the fatwas, etc. And you're left with the verses of Allah which are there. All right. And did you follow them or not? No, we didn't. So you testify against themselves that they were Kafireen. They will testify against themselves that they were Kafireen. Okay, they will be, I mentioned it a lot, but for example, they will be there wanting to mention the hadith that that apostates should be killed. Okay, but that's not there. It's not accepted. Okay, no, but the verse is there. La ikraha fid din. Okay, there is no compulsion in religion. Did you accept it? Or did you reject it? Rejected it. Okay, so now you testify against themselves that you are kafir. They were kind of Kafireen. Because all the stuff which they placed their iman on, which they thought was iman, the iftira, the lies, it's gone. It won't be there. ضلوا عنا. It's gone. وشهدوا على أنفسهم أنهم كانوا كافرين. Right? ضلوا عنا وشهدوا. So these, أينما كنتم تدعون من دون الله, those whom you used to invoke besides God, is related to فمن أظلم ممن افترى على الله كذبا. To those who invented the lie. Okay, and they're testifying that they were Kafireen. The testimony that they were Kafireen is related to the takzeeb of the ayat. Okay, takzeeb of the ayat. So in life they called to them and called others to them. They invoked them and told others to invoke them. The Salaf, okay, those who came before. But now they won't find them. They won't find them, and and what they said will not have any weight against the ayat that were being rejected. It won't have any weight on Yawm al-Qiyamah, right? So then you're left with nothing left but to testify that you indeed rejected these verses. You were indeed Kafireen. And we see that, in case somebody thinks that, no, you're reading too much into this. What is this about? That this is about this, forefathers in religion and the Salaf and stuff. No, look at the next verse. The next verse talks about قَالَ ادْخُلُوا فِي أُمَمٍ قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِكُم مِنَ الْجِنِّ وَالْإِنسِ. And again here we see the relevance of jinn wal ins in this whole idea of those who testify that they were Kafireen ultimately. They didn't know in this world, but on the Day of Judgment, they will testify. Allah will say, enter among those nations who had passed before you of jinn and mankind into the fire. They'll go into the fire. كلما دخلت أمة لعنت أختها. Every time a nation enters, a ummah enters, it will curse its sister unit. Its sister. What does that mean, أختها? It means it's from the same family. So basically, we're talking about generations. Okay, we're talking about the earlier generations, the later generations. Okay, the earlier ummah, the later ummah. Okay, كلما دخلت أمة لعنت أختها. Every time a nation enters, it will curse why will it curse them? Why will it curse these people? Because they're saying, you guys set us astray. We looked up to you. We invoked you. Okay. حتى إذا اداركوا فيها, until they were all in there together. قالت أخراهم لأولاهم. And this again makes understand that we're talking about successive generations. Okay. Because God in the end he will judge people. I think it will be chronologically, right? So mankind, the earliest mankind will be judged first, and then the later will be judged later. So the first, وَقَالَتْ أُخْرَاهُمْ لِأُولَاهُمْ, the final one, the last of them will say to the first of them, our Lord, لِأُولَاهُمْ لِأُخْرَاهُمْ رَبَّنَا هَؤُلَاءِ ضَلُّونَ. These are the ones who sent us astray. Sent us astray of what? Of their lies. No, but you believed the lies. You believed the lies and rejected the signs. Okay, but they will say, oh Lord, these are the ones, the people, okay, not the stone idols. These are the people, أضلونا, okay, أضلونا. They led us astray. فآتهم عذابا ضعفا من النار. So give them double, this will multiply the punishment for them. They give them double punishment. Okay, but God will say, لكل ضعف ولكن لا تعلمون. Now, all of you you're already double, okay, but you don't know. Right? You're double you because you should have rejected what was the lies that came to you, and you early ones because you invented those lies. Okay, but this again shows us the reason why they will testify that they were Kafireen. Okay, they will say because they rejected the signs, but they would not realize it until Day of Judgment, because they had accepted the lies and they thought these lies were from God. So they will be saying, they were the ones who led us to kufr, okay, and made us Kafireen, these forefathers of ours in religion. Okay, they set us astray. Okay, we didn't, when we in life we didn't know. Okay, we didn't know. But then they will reply, okay, the early ones say, وَقَالَتْ أُولَاهُمْ لِأُخْرَاهُم. The last of them will say to the first. So the Salaf will say to the Khalaf. Okay, the Salaf will say to the Khalaf, فَمَا كَانَ لَكُمْ عَلَيْنَا مِنْ فَضْلٍ فَذُوقُوا الْعَذَابَ بِمَا كُنْتُمْ تَكْسِبُونَ. You didn't have any favor upon us. In the end, you must taste the punishment because of what you yourself earned. You yourself earned it, nobody else. All right. Okay, so that's just what I wanted to share. I mean, two very interesting verses, I think, where it talks about those who will testify that they were Kafireen. Okay, let's check out the chat. And just go back a bit. It looks like a lot in the chat. Anyway, we have somebody backstage. Yazan, I'm going to bring you on in a minute, okay? Give me a second just to check if there's anything I need to look at in the chat. Okay, so I guess some people are discussing jinn, what jinn means. All right, okay, let's bring you on. Assalamu alaikum, Yazan.
Oh, wa alaikum assalam. Can you hear me?
How? I'm good, yes. How are you? Alhamdulillah, I can hear you.
Okay. How are you?
I'm good. How have you been?
It's good, alhamdulillah.
Nice.
I want to talk to you about the last stream.
Yeah, no problem. Go ahead.
The verse 434 in Surah Nisa.
Oh, right, yes. Okay.
Yeah. And I remember you said to the person that was on, I forgot his name, but the perfect da'wah, yeah, that's the name.
Yeah, the perfect da'wah, that's right.
Yeah, so I remember you talked to him about it, and you said if it didn't mean hit or beat, then it would have been pretty bad word choice.
Yeah.
Because that's obviously the obvious like translation for the word.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so there's this concept that I took. Originally, I heard it from Mufti Abu Layth, and he uses it with miracles, but I think it can apply for lots of topics. So, and you mentioned something like this before in one of your old streams, I think, where you talked about how everybody can take their own personal like message from the Quran, something along that line, the way you said it.
Yeah,
And Mufti Abu Layth calls it superpositions, where he says
yeah,
like a verse can have multiple meanings, and
true.
depending on the person reading it or the like what time he lives in, what society he lives in, as
Yeah,
long as it's like linguistically correct, then it can be a valid interpretation.
yeah,
Yeah, so like my personal view on that verse is I agree with you that I think the clear meaning means hit for sure.
mm,
But I do think that it could have the other meaning that the perfect Dawah talked about, where it can be both. And depending on the situation, I guess, or depending on the era or society or the person, uh, either interpretation can work for the person reading it.
mm, yeah. Well, like I can see that. I can definitely see that. Um, I mean, in the end, that doesn't resolve as much the because the issue of it was why should it have that interpretation anyway? So yes, I mean, I could
Mhm.
say yes, you could have the other interpretation, and somebody could take that away. And I believe that definitely there's a lot. I believe this idea of yes, this idea of sort of superposition
Mhm.
on the Quran, where you start to take things in much higher concepts. I
Yeah.
think ultimately you can even get to a position because there's something unique about. I don't want to sound like I'm making the Arabic language to be um, more important than it is, but I mean it's something I'm still looking into.
Mhm.
But the thing about the Arabic, how did the Arabic language come to be the way it is? Because it has there are such things in it which are they're not normal in most languages.
Yeah.
They're not normal in most languages, right? The way certain um, um, the way just certain concepts are linked together, right?
Mhm.
It could be because it was came from it was sort of developed by some of the messengers or something like this. Some people say that no, it's because it's a relic of the language which Adam spoke, right?
Yeah.
So it's not the actual language that Adam spoke. Of course, Adam
Mhm.
spoke. They say he spoke the language that the angel spoke. Okay,
Mm.
so that was the first language of the human being because that's what the angel spoke.
Mhm.
And then later on, it's sort of like devalued. And that early language, I mean, you can read Abdulaziz Dabagh. He talks about this, one of the Sufi sages of Morocco. And he says that that every letter has a meaning.
Yeah.
Every letter actually has a meaning. So a word is like a sentence. Okay, right
Mhm.
now we have like where a word. You need a word which has a meaning. But
Yeah.
in the language which sort of the angels had, every letter, every sound had its own intrinsic meaning,
Mhm.
right? So there was a lot, there was a lot in there, and there's a remnant of that in the Quran, in terms of the broken letters. Okay, the
Yeah.
broken letters, they mean something. Each,
Mhm.
people say they don't know what it means. I mean, I accept what the way Sharif has shown about the broken letters. Okay, that what he does, he takes them back to the Aramaic, right?
Mm.
In Aramaic, which is a very early language. Okay, and Arabic descended from that as well.
Yeah.
Uh, according to the majority, some people don't accept that. But in Aramaic, every letter does have a meaning. It does
Mhm.
have a meaning. Okay, so Alif Lam Mim, that has a meaning in Aramaic.
Yeah.
It actually means to be quiet and listen attentively and things like this. Taha has a meaning, which means oh man. Okay, and
Mm.
the ta is used. It has a meaning of basically the earth or clay, and it's used to mean the human being because human was made from clay, and the
Mhm.
ha is a calling. Okay, so
Yeah.
basically it means ya rajul, right? Even Ibn Abbas says a similar thing.
Mm.
And it
Okay.
fits into the verse. طه ما أنزلنا عليك القرآن لتشقى. طه, oh man, we did not send down the Quran upon you, so it will be thing. But anyway, look into that if you can. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I think that yes, ultimately, even the Quran, right? So when you start to look at this idea of superposition, right, you
Yeah.
can start to have a whole other understanding, as you sort of like go up to higher superpositions, it's true, right? And
Yeah.
ultimately you could even get to a position where you start to actually not read the words, but read the letters. You start to
Yeah.
actually read the Quran as in you're reading the letters. So I don't know how that would work, but and there's an interesting thing about that. I mean, Hassan al-Maliki spoke a little bit about it in one of the voice notes he sent to a group that we were in,
Mm-hmm.
which is all about how, for example, like the ghain, the letter ghain, that has the meaning of hiddenness, right?
Like
And that's
gleamed.
why, yeah, like that's why many of the words which have a ghain in it, they have an element of that idea,
Oh,
right? There's
okay.
something hidden in it, right?
Yeah.
Ghaib, ghaba, forest, because you can
Mm-hmm.
hide in a forest, right?
Yeah.
And so each of these things, even things which have a ghain in the middle, like baghi, this kind of rebellion,
Mm-hmm.
okay, where he says the meaning of ba is the imbisaq, the sort of like exploding out, the spreading out of something. Because even the sound
Yeah.
of the ba, it produces that sort of sound, that plosive sound. Then
Yeah,
the
that's
rain,
interesting.
there's something hidden, and the ya means continual, something which continues for a while. Okay,
Yeah.
imtidad in the time, so that you can actually read the word in that kind of way. Okay?
Mm.
And even when it comes to like different words of why do we say, why did these different words for lion, asad, and haydar, right? These are different words, but they,
Yeah.
they give a different sense just from the way the letters are.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
no, I definitely accept that it can be thing, but in the end, if you accept this idea of superpositions, right,
Mm-hmm.
and you can accept that they're all valid in some way, right, the lowest one has to be sort of like um, the most valid in terms of just how it, how it just the apparent meaning.
Yeah.
We have to have this kind of idea where yes, we accept the apparent meaning to a certain degree.
Yeah, I agree.
There's an excellent um, thing written by there's a bunch of tweets. Let me see if I can pull it out now. But it
Okay.
was from Saeed,
Mm-hmm.
Sheikh Sahib Saeed. He had something very interesting to say when he was talking about. He had this thread. I've got it linked in my thing, but he talks about how people read different verses and how they interpret them together. If I can just let me see if I can pull it up and read
Mm-hmm.
some of that because it's very interesting. I thought.
What you said about how the apparent meaning is probably the most like valid.
Hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like Marvelous Qur'an.
Hmm.
Like I think lots of his stuff are big stretches. Honestly, I
Yeah.
think the majority are. But
Hmm.
sometimes he does bring interesting like meanings that are sort of botany.
Hmm.
But the issue is he throws out the apparent meaning and he like sort
Yeah.
of dismisses it and he says it's like garbage or it's low level understanding or something like
Hmm.
that.
Yeah.
But like
Hmm.
I don't agree with that. But I do
Hmm.
like how he brings a different interpretation sometimes, even though I think the
Yeah.
majority of it is like a big stretch. I'm not gonna
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I haven't looked too much into his stuff, but I
lie.
remember there was something which I did find very interesting. But then, I watched more and I didn't really find as much.
Yeah.
So let me just read this part. So it says here, some people asked me, this is Sahib Said writing. Some people asked me to comment on a particular use of a particular ayah by a particular group to support their particular doctrine.
Hmm.
Okay. Anyway, and I intend to do that, inshallah, but I feel that taking a few steps back is helpful before diving in. So then he says, suppose group A say this ayah proves our point.
Hmm.
This is obviously insufficient if there are other ayat which are relevant, especially if some go against that point.
Mm.
Okay. On many important issues, there are ayat which can plausibly be used by both sides of a debate. Someone with no horse in the race, like a secular academic, might say the Quran is ambivalent or
Mm.
even confused on the issue. Okay, so Group A and Group B, however, each have to believe that all the ayat are actually on their side. Crudely, A says to B, if you think any ayah supports you, you fail to understand it. That's a crude thing that people would say. If you
Yeah.
think that, that this verse supports your view, you don't understand the verse. Okay, Dr. Said says, a more mature approach is to acknowledge that some ayat at least appear to support group B, but when you interpret them more subtly, they don't. Okay, especially when put alongside the clearer evidences for A. Okay. What I just described is the basis for the mutashabih al-Qur'an, okay, the genre, okay, pioneered by the Mu'tazila. The point is to show that your own group is relying on the clear-cut muhkam verses, and your opponent is either fooled by the phrasing or stretching the meaning unacceptably. Okay, that's something I was saying. This mature attitude doesn't mean accepting that the Quran is confused, but certainly acknowledges that there's a challenge involved in pondering it and being guided aright. Imam Razi expresses this beautifully in the context of free will debate, and then he links that. Then he says, so Group A should accept that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed some ayat with words that challenge what Group A believe. Okay? So Group A should accept that Allah revealed some verses, some ayat with words that challenge what they themselves believe. Okay? And they have to be okay with that. The first level is to say that is to test who will interpret the difficult ayat correctly. He says that's the first level. Then he says a higher level, rarely observed in the wild, is to say there is something in that particular wording that would have been lost if it were worded more directly in line with what we believe is the right interpretation of it. And that is definitely, I think, very true. Okay, you have to say, okay, there is something in that particular wording of that particular verse, okay, which it would be lost if it were worded more directly in what I think it means. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. If it had been worded how I think it should mean, then something would be lost.
Yeah, it loses more meaning.
There's something which would be lost. Okay. You don't know what it is. Okay, because it's not part of what you think, but there's something there which you're not seeing. Following from both points, the ambiguity isn't just a test, but points to something about the issue itself. Neither the word choice nor the contrast in ayah happened by accident. Okay, we must ponder harder. Okay, so these two principles, which guide a lot of my own pondering, he says these days, you may not find them in the books of Qawaid, but that doesn't mean they're not valid. Okay, just ponder on what I've laid out for you above. Okay. So he says, in quotation one where it says the zahir is always intended on some level, and ambiguity is meaningful. Okay, these two sort of like principles. Let me see if he says anything else. Finally, a note on polemic use of ayat. Pondering is based on vulnerability. You have to be ready to be wrong, to hear better ideas, think again. In polemics, you must always be right. That's the death of pondering. Yeah, I think it means if in polemics you must always be right. That's the death of pondering. That's why you must go on a journey before I tell you about the particular groups, particular use of a particular ayah, etc. Okay, that's all that's relevant really from what he says.
Okay.
So no, I mean, what you mentioned about that verse, I mean, I like I said, I mean, I think we have to be able to see that even at the lowest superposition level, okay, we have to see that verse is relevant in some way, okay, in some way. I say that just because that, like I said, I mean, explained, I think well enough, but for some people who may be hearing this now and didn't watch the last stream, my explanation of it is just that the first part of the verse no longer applies, and the rest of the verse is built upon that first part.
Yeah, that was interesting.
يا رجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل الله بعضهم على بعض. So that's the statement of sort of fact of how life was, and for the most part generally is. Okay, and so built upon that it says the rest of the verse is built upon that. It says fell. This is how then believing the righteous women should behave. Okay,
yeah.
And so, but in the modern world, that's not the ideal anymore, right? In the modern world, sort of in the West, no, it's not that rijal qawamun ala nisa. That's rejected.
Yeah, it's a different situation.
Yeah, it's rejected. Yeah, different situation. And also, a lot of the times that they do spend upon each other, right? So you have two income families.
Yeah.
So it will be very unjust, right, to now apply the rest of the verse as it is, as if the first part of it hasn't changed. No, it has changed.
Yeah, exactly.
It has changed. So that's how I look at that. But we have the perfect dawah on right now in backstage.
Could I mention one more thing and then I'll leave really quick? All right.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
In the last stream, you talked about Surah Al-Alaq, and you said something along the lines of how lots of people see it as a scientific error.
Yeah, I think the Tariq, Surah Tariq, the between the ribbon and the.
Oh yeah,
That's
you're
Surah
right.
Tariq.
Yeah, I messed it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you said you think it might be a euphemism. I remember you said
Yeah.
that, but I have a different understanding of it.
Yeah, please go ahead, share it.
So my understanding is that when it says يخرج من بين الصلب والترائب, that actually is talking about the insan himself. And my reasoning for that is if you go next verse, إنه على رجعه لقادر, it seems like innahu in that verse should be talking about the verse right before it.
Okay.
And the verse right before it is يخرج من بين الصلب والترائب. So it seems like Allah talking about how innahu ala raj'i laqadir, Allah is able to bring him back to life, bring him back. That seems to be talking about the human, right, and not the liquid. So it seems like the previous verse is also talking about the human, and like it's talking about the positioning of the womb of the woman. So yeah, that's how I see it.
Okay, for like before birth, basically, right? So in terms of basically like that's almost like basically a euphemism for the birth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's between the backbone of the woman and the ribs of the woman.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's how I understand.
Yeah, that makes sense as well, right? Because the there is in fact between the backbone and the ribs in that kind of way. Yeah. So that makes perfect sense as well. I mean, the reason why I preferred the other one, well, I'm not sure. Right, I need to think more about what you said because I never thought about it that way. But what attracted me to the other one is because, of course, the خُلِقَ مِن مَاءٍ دَافِقٍ, right? It says خُلِقَ مِن مَاءٍ دَافِقٍ, and just that word دافق, right? دافق. Then just say خُلِقَ مِن مَاءٍ مَهِينٍ, for example. Okay, it's خُلِقَ مِن مَاءٍ دَافِقٍ. Okay. يخرج من بين الصلب. When does it come out? Okay, so it's talking about يخرج comes out, right? It comes out. So it's not talking about where it's created inside. Okay, inside the person, inside like the man, right? So I'm talking about where it's created inside him, between his. It's where does it come out from the man during intercourse, right? So it's talking dafiq, right? So like I said, I think it's a euphemism for sort of ejaculation at the time of things. So I mean, in the end, it sort of mirrors what you're saying anyway, because where does like ejaculation occur, right? Between the sulbi wa tara'ib of the woman in that kind of way. But the euphemism is actually between the sulbi wa tara'ib. That again, this is from Abdullah Andalusi. So he wrote a paper on that. It's in Yaqeen Institute. I think you find it there. Where he shows that that sulb, right, has been used in a lot of poetry and a lot of like I think in some narrations as well. But he showed where it's been used at the time of the Quran to be a euphemism for but to be like a metaphor for the human being. Right?
Oh, okay.
And the tara'ib, the ribs, are used as a metaphor for the female, okay, for the woman, okay. So when it says يخرج من بين الصلب والترائب, okay, so it's ejaculated between when the sulb and the tara'ib are together, right? The man and the woman are together. So that so I see that as sort of like a general sort of euphemism and metaphor for that. But it definitely works the other way around, where if you talk about it where he comes out at birth. The human comes out at birth between the sulb and the tribe of the mother. Yeah. It's a very, very valid way. Yes. Excellent.
Yeah, I can see how both work actually. I think that's another thing with the Quran. Like it's another superposition. Like they're both interpretations are different, but they're both seem valid.
Yeah. They're like they almost mirrors each other from what. It's sort of like a mirroring, right? Is when it comes out, and then when it goes out, like what they say about what's that joke? Not that joke, but what's one of those salaf sayings where they're saying how how strange is a human being. He's arrogant, even though he has passed by the same place that the urine passes twice, right? So from the man to the woman, and then from the woman to the world. It's
Yeah.
passed in the same way that the urine is passed twice, yet he's still arrogant.
Yeah, that's
So it's almost that
interesting.
sort of like it mirrors that.
Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. Excellent.
All right. Yeah. Shukran, bro.
No problem. Jazakallah. Thank you so much for coming on.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam. All right. Okay. Perfect. That was with us. I'll bring you on in a second. Just check. Is there anything? Oh, looks like there's still a healthy conversation about the meaning of jinn, right? Assalamu alaikum. Dawa. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. How are you, inshallah?
I'm good. Yourself?
I'm fine, alhamdulillah. Thank you.
Excellent.
I just want to say that, yes, I told you that next week, inshallah, we'll have a debate with David Wood on modern day debate, and anybody would like to watch it. It's Saturday, it's 5 p.m. UK time. So it's about half an hour before you start, unfortunately.
No problem.
Yes, but anyway, before I start, I would like to ask you a little bit more about that verse, menstruation.
Yeah.
We were talking, so that I make very much sure about that. If somebody asks me, so you said that there is nothing about age, but anything about that reach, for example. They haven't reached the menstruation, for example. Is it something like that, even in the verse?
Let me pull it out.
Yes, that can be connected.
What number is it again?
I don't remember.
It's واللائي لم يحضن. Hold on.
Let me check.
Let me just check it myself. Okay, so it's in Surah Al-Talaq.
Yes, Talaq, yes.
Talaq, verse 4.
Verse 4,
right.
Yeah.
65. Okay, let me put it on the screen.
Yeah.
Give me a second for that. 65, 4. Okay. So I need to stop sharing this. Okay, and share the other tab. Give me a second. Don't know how these people, sometimes they do these very fast. I can't do these as fast as
Not me either.
see some other people doing, right? Okay. All right, so here's the verse. So yeah, do you think that the reason why is that he's gonna bring up this a lot, because you've asked a lot about it? Is this like
no, it's usually when you talk to people like him, they usually bring up this one to say that Prophet Muhammad peace be upon him married Aisha at 6 and so on. Yeah, so they bring up this one, and I said that it is for women who have never gotten their menstruation. There was a guy who said, then why is talk about age?
I know it doesn't talk about age.
Yes,
okay,
exactly.
So I mean, even if you just like go right from the beginning of the verse, right from the beginning of the surah, it says, "Ya ayyuhan nabi, idha talaqtum an-nisa." O you messenger, or you prophet, okay, when you divorce women, فَطَلِّقُوهُنَّ لِعِدَّتِهِنَّ وَأَحْصُنْ عِدَّةً. Okay, then so it's all talking about menstruation, right? So when you then divorce them when they have reached their period, okay, and make sure you count the period, count it, make sure you know it, okay. واتقوا الله ربكم لا تخرجوهن من بيوتهن ولا يخرجن إلا يأتين بفاحشة مبينة. Okay, and have taqwa of Allah. Do not let them to leave their homes, and they shouldn't leave unless they have come with a manifest fahisha. تلك حدود الله ومن يتعدى حدود الله فقد ظلم. These are حدود of Allah. And then continues, and it says the next verse, okay, فإذا بلغنا, so it's talking about the women again, okay, it's still continuing, right? فإذا بلغنا أجلهن, right? So this is in the feminine, okay, so when they have reached their period, okay, فأمسكوهن بمعروف أو فارقوهن بمعروف, okay, so hold them with معروف, or or separate them from معروف. واشهدوا ذوي عدل منكم, and get two to witness it, which is a shame. This is not done in at all. That for divorce there should be witnesses. For divorce there should be witnesses, just like in marriage there should be witness. You can't just say, I divorce you, and that's it, it's done. No, it has to be. And it says here, وَأَقِيمُوا الشَّهَادَةَ, and establish the witnessing, establish shahada for Allah. أَقِيمُوا شَهَادَةَ لِلَّهِ ذَلِكُمْ, and this, God is warning you. Look, it's mentioned many times here. Okay, and it says that's what God admonishes whoever has iman in God and the last day. Okay,
Yes.
so it's really hitting this idea home that you should have witness testimony done for the marriage, but for some reason it's just not. Well, the Quran is abandoned. So what can you say? And then it talks about وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَل لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. And whoever has taqwa of Allah, Allah will find a way out for him. Okay, وَمَا يَرْزُقُهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ, he will sustain him from where he did not know. وَمَن يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ, and whoever relies upon God, then he will be sufficient for him. إِنَّ اللَّهَ بَالِغُ أَمْرِهِ, God will cause his amr to reach its conclusion. قَدْ جَعَلَ اللَّهُ لِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدْرًا, Allah has made out for everything a measure. Okay, everything has its measure. Okay, and then it says here, so now it's continue, وَاللَّائِ, and those, okay, who? Women, of course, but of course it actually says it, يَئِسْنَ مِنَ الْمَحِيضِ. Okay, مِنَ الْمَحِيض. So those, look at all of let's have a look at some of these translations. As for your women who have despaired of further menstruation, okay, so they've despaired. Okay, what does that mean? That's basically, it's talking about the menopause, right? And as for those who have despaired of their menstruation, and the waiting period for those of young women who have lost all expectations of menstruation, so they're not gonna, so from the start it's talking about we need to divorce according to the waiting period, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So now it's mentioned all of that. Now it's going to talk about the cases where the waiting period is not there's like the menopause, and for the women who for some reason there are some conditions where
definitely
they'll go for a few months without a period. They will skip it. They will be skipped, right? So وَلَا يَئِسْنَ, so those which have despaired of menstruation, so these are the menopause. Okay, min nisaikum, from your women.
Yes,
okay,
women.
from your women, min nisaikum, like from the start to here, from your women. In irtabtum, if you are in doubt about it, then it's just 3 months. Okay, it's about 3 months, right? In irtabtum, it's about 3 months. Okay,
yes.
واللائي, and also اللائي لم يحضن, and those who haven't menstruated. Okay, haven't menstruated, لم يحضن. That's what this means.
Those who haven't menstruated. It doesn't say those who haven't reached menstruation.
No.
Those who haven't.
لم يحضن. Yeah, so it's again, look, it's women, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's as clear as daylight, right? It's about women. Okay, what does that mean then? What is the difference between those which have despaired of their menstruation, okay, and those who haven't? Well, like I said, some women they will skip their menstruation. It will happen like this. Okay, so those who in these 3 months haven't had their menstruation, okay, it's still 3 months.
Yes.
Okay, still 3 months. Okay, you have to take that same amount of time. And then it says وَأُولَاتُ الْأَحْمَالِ, and those which are pregnant. Okay, so are we going to say that this includes children who haven't reached menstruation? Okay. Okay, so again, it's all talking about women. Okay, women. Now this verse is just talking about the different cases. Okay. Otherwise, what is the case? What is the case of for women who don't who skip their menstruation sometimes? Well, what's the ruling for that? We've got the ruling for the menopause. We've got the ruling for the pregnant women. Okay, and so of course this is about the women who have who are not regular in their menstruations. Okay, or who have skipped them or haven't in that time. Right. So are you going to wait? So put it this way. Let's say the divorce is done, the witnesses are done, the waiting period now starts. Okay.
Yeah.
But the no menstruation happens. Okay. What do you do now? What are you going to do? We're just going to have to start again. Okay. Now we have to do another 3 months.
No.
That's dhulm. That's it. So now it's going to have to be 4 months. Okay. And what about in the second month? She doesn't menstruate again. Okay. So then again now, okay, and then the third month she does. Okay, now we can start counting. So then it's going to be a whole 5 months before she can get married again.
Yeah,
Right? It's a dhulm. You can't be done that way. Okay. So even if she does or she doesn't, it's the 3 months. Okay. You start counting the 3 months. Otherwise, again, what will you do with these? Okay. And it says here, وَأُولَاتُ الْأَحْمَالِ, and those which are pregnant, أَجْلُهُنَّ أَنْ يَضَعْنَ حَمْلَهُنَّ. It's until they give birth. Okay. وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مِنْ أَمْرِهِ يُسْرًا. And whoever has taqwa of Allah, Allah will make from his affair easy. Right, so it's all talking about women. It's all. It's just why is this here? Why do you have these interpretations where they say, oh, this includes, prepubescent girls? They do it because of the hadith. Because
I understand. Yes, no,
that's it. That's the only reason. And anyway, okay, why? What's the point of having a waiting period? Why is there a waiting period? There's a waiting period to make sure that she's not pregnant.
Exactly.
Okay. So what's the point of having a waiting period for those who have never had, who haven't menstruated?
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah, exactly.
Where even also in traditional Islam, they say you can't have intercourse with her until she's menstruated. Okay. Well, if you can't, when you can't have intercourse with them, okay, is there even a waiting period?
Exactly.
Okay? So there's I forget the verse, what is it? Because I don't look into these fiqh issues, but there's it says in the Quran, فَمَا لَكُمْ عَلَيْهِمْ مِنْ عِدَّةٍ تَعْتَدُّونَها, right? That when you haven't touched them, when you haven't touched their wives, then there is no iddah.
Yeah,
There's no iddah.
Exactly.
Okay? All right, it says, let me find the verse, فَمَا لَكُمْ عَلَيْهِمْ. There's verse so in Surah Al-Ahzab, verse 49. So Ahzab is 33, 49. 33, 49. Okay. So it says here, يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نكحتم المؤمنات ثم طلقتموهن, or you have had iman when you marry the believing women, okay, faithful women, and then you divorce them من قبل أن تمسوهن, before you touch them. فما لكم عليهن من عدة. They don't have عدة. They don't have a عدة for them. من عدة تعتدونها. فمتعوهن وسرحوهن سراحا جميلا. So give them the provision and release them in a kind way. So if if the other verses say, as they say, that you have to have, the other verses saying, if we're talking about a woman, a young girl who hasn't had her period, so you can't touch her. Okay, you can't touch her, right? And then you divorce her. Well, this verse is telling you clearly that there's no iddah. Okay, so that excludes the other verse. Okay, that other verse can't mean, if it isn't clear already, it can't mean a girl who is pre-pubescent, pre-menstruation. Right?
Yes.
It can't mean that because they don't have an iddah anyway. You don't touch them; they don't have an iddah. Okay.
Yeah, I understand. Yes.
And also just the logical thing about it. Why is there iddah? To make sure she's not pregnant.
Yeah,
okay?
exactly.
Well, if she's never had her period, of course she's not. She's not going to be pregnant. Exactly. So it's just a ridiculous thing. I mean, like we said, it's just
they try to attack. I sent you in private chat. I sent you a link. Could you please click on that link and share it? I appreciate it very much. It's about chapter 4, verse 34.
Hold on, because that would be on my phone, not on here.
I don't know if I can share it. Let me see if I can.
If you can share, I'm not sure.
Yeah, let me see if I can share video, share screen.
Just give me a second.
Microsoft.
I don't see the link.
Okay.
Where did you send it? Oh, did you send it on the
private
the chat?
The private.
On the private chat. Okay, sorry.
I don't know. Do you see it now? I've shared that.
Yeah. I've got it. Okay, it's Islam Awakened.
Yes.
I'm sorry. So do you want me to share that?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on 1 second.
I sent it myself also, actually. I don't know if you could add that one.
It's okay,
or,
I've got it.
Okay,
I've
yeah,
got it.
share it, please.
Second. So it's this one, I think. I think this says. So this one, right?
Let me check. Yeah, this is the one, yes.
Oh, this is verse 4 from.
Yeah, 4:34.
So,
yes.
yeah.
I'm just going through that because some here, they say that exactly. They say beat her third time. Okay, that's the third option. But there are several that say the same thing I said, leave her. Okay.
Yeah.
So let me see. The first one,
First one's Muhammad Asad. I only have like 3 over here.
Reason,
so I don't know how to make all of the translations come up.
no, if you just go down, scroll down, there are more. But anyway,
all right, okay,
the first one is which, as for women, those who have diminished them dead, and then fortunately they pay you heed. Okay, let me see. Beat them. Yeah, the first one says beat them. Okay.
Which one do you want me to go to?
Okay, the second one say then discipline them gently. I don't know from where they got that one. And then the third one, Safi Kas, okay, says then depart away from them. Okay, then you go down again. There are Dr. Shahnaz.
Yeah, I know, and I have seen, like I said, I know that there are translation. This is depart away from them.
Yes,
but
there are many them that say then leave them, because actually it is. You have it?
Yeah, I have it, but I think I did something wrong.
Anyway, there are several of them that say leave them. Okay, and as I said that. This is chapter 3, verse 7. Quran says that how to, the true interpretation of unspecific verses of Quran, like this one that can have different meanings. Yeah, is known only by those by Allah and those firm in knowledge. So how those firm in knowledge can understand the true meaning of a verse is that they put it beside other verses of Quran. So when you go to the next verse, already to the next verse, it explains for you, 4:35, that if you fear that they divorce or they don't come back together, then send a judge from her family and then a judge from his family to bring them back together. Okay, and even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give the right to woman also to decide. It's not just the husband who decide. Okay, that's fine. If it was just beating. And I said example before that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, every verse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was to solve a problem. And this domestic violence was a problem. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to fix this problem, which people even today, they beat their wives. I gave an example that in Mexico, 1,000 women were killed within just few months lockdown. Yeah. So if he wanted to solve the problems, then he wouldn't, if he was in favor of beating wives, then he wouldn't send a verse, because we already do it. He didn't send a verse how to ride the camel. People, they knew how to ride their camels. So the problem was that,
I understand.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then,
I mean, for example, this verse. I mean, you're saying. Are you saying that it's sent to solve the problem of domestic violence?
Yes, exactly. That first look at the first two parts, the first two steps already solved a lot of problems, because as I said that you talk and then you separate the bed. It doesn't take 1 hour separate the bed. You have to separate several nights, definitely. So already day after, people, man, husband, they will start to think, you miss each other. And then after several days, because you are that moment, you are angry, you might beat your wife. Yeah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't allow you to do that. And then the last option is that, okay, not divorce, but separate. Yeah, go away from her. And then the next verse, it says that, and if you are afraid that they don't come back together, okay, number 35, send somebody from her family and send somebody from his family to bring them back together. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this way give the right even to the woman. Woman is not a slave. she's not has to obey. She also has the right to decide to go back or not. Okay, because of that problem which has happened. So this is and it goes against this.
Then let me just ask you about
yes,
one
please,
thing then, because you said that this verse is meant to be solving the domestic
problem. Yes,
domestic problem.
violence.
But
Domestic
but
violence.
the most obvious purpose of this verse, we've seen every verse is sent to solve a problem.
Exactly.
The most obvious problem that this is being sent is is supposed to resolve is in the shoes. وَاللَّاتِ تَخَافُونَ نُشُوزُهُنَّ, right? Those from whom you fear nushuz.
Yes, yes.
So that seems to me that's what's being this verse is trying to solve. It's not trying to solve the domestic violence problem. That's not the. It doesn't look that way, right? If you read just the verse from the beginning, it's talking about. Even let's look at that translation that you mentioned. Where is it? It says, "Righteous wives, others, etc. If you have reason to fear ill will from your wives." Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So that's what's being. Oops. What's going on now? That's what's being solved. Okay. That's what this verse is trying to solve. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
That's the problem. I don't think it's the problem is the domestic violence is what's being solved.
Yes, so for that problem, people used to beat their wives. Okay, for this beating wives has always existed. Some in Japan, they were not even beating their wives; they were beheading them. Okay, so she should just bow down so that husband, if husband was, he disliked her cooking, she should just bow down and he would behead his wife. Okay, so this problem has always existed, that men would see women as something weak and they should discipline her, or they should beat her and so on. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to solve this problem as well. He didn't want that because this goes, imagine that I am wrong, I'm a husband, that I'm wrong, and I'm going to, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow me to beat my wife. This goes against the precise verses of Quran that is oppression against someone who is weaker than you. Okay, because when you beat someone who is weaker than you, it's oppression. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to forgive even murderers, someone who killed your relatives. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if you forgive, I forgives your sins. So how come he's going to allow me to beat my wife because she has done something? And I sent you on this Professor Edip's
Edip, yeah.
Yes, Edip. I sent on your Telegram. Please read it. It's very long, and he has given a lot of verses of Quran that what nushuz and all these things has been translated in other verses. Okay. So in this verse, they translated something else. In other verses, they translated totally different. So this is very controversial, of course, verse. And I don't believe myself that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would allow me to beat my wife. Maybe I'm drug user. Maybe my wife is, right. And I given another verse as well that women. And then the next verse also, I said that women also had the right to decide to go back to that life or not, So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tries to keep them together. And he knows by beating wife, nothing will be, nothing will change. It doesn't become better, the situation, but become worse even. Okay, that you beat your wife. I would, I know that if something happened between me and my wife and I beat her, then finished totally. Understand? Of course, I'm not such a man, of course, yeah. But anyway, I know that even if I scream on her, then it is, it doesn't help the situation. So I always try to be calm. So if I beat her, oh my God, that's totally out of question. How can you discipline? Make a family, situation to become better by beating. It's absolutely. In Sweden, for example, you have no right to even to beat your children who doesn't understand anything. If you beat your children, they take it away from you. Understand? So I don't think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would allow us to oppress someone who is weaker than us.
That's oppression as well,
Yes.
to take somebody's children away from them.
Yeah, no, that's because it's oppression against the children. If you beat your children, you mistreat
It's also
your
oppression.
children.
It's also oppression if you take the kids away from their parents.
Yeah, yes,
That can be oppression, and I'm aware of that. I'm aware that there's a lot of issues right now in Sweden where there's a lot of children who have been,
yes.
forcibly removed from their parents.
Yeah, okay. Maybe that's not a good. Yeah, just I say that you have no right to beat your children. Maybe that's not the good. Yeah, if somebody definitely, I agree. If somebody beats his children all the time, abuse his children all the time, then definitely they are not good parents. Okay, they shouldn't keep their children, because there are parents who don't deserve to have raised children, and they just raise crazy children, and because they beat their children, or I don't know. It is a deep discussion, but anyway.
Deep discussion. Yeah.
Yes, it's
For those who are maybe just tuning in, we talked about this quite a bit last week in the last week's stream, and me and I think there was another brother also who gave his opinions on it. So I don't want to rehash what I said last week. But those who are interested can have a look at it there if you want.
Inshallah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, my brother. Anyway, I just mentioned once again our next week, inshallah.
Yes. So next.
Wish me good luck.
I wish you good luck next week. For everybody listening, Perfect Dawah here is going to have a debate with David Wood, right, on the
modern day debate.
Modern day debate. Yeah, I've seen that's a channel where there's a lot of debates are being done.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the topic of the debate? What's the title or the question?
He said that let's talk about who was Muhammad. First, I said that I said another one who was Jesus and who was Muhammad, something like this, and then he said no, that's a very wide discussion. I said okay, because I wanted to talk to him, okay, to see why he's spreading so much hate against Muslims, okay, and mostly I wanted to talk to him about these lies he through rubbish fabricated hadiths. He take every fabricated hadiths and say, look what Islam says, look here, look there, and he demonizes Islam and Muslims. Okay, I mostly want to talk to him about that, so that's why I didn't want to very much insist on the topic. I just would like to talk to him to see he and his friend, this atheist apostate prophet. Okay, an apostate prophet. Actually, I'm chasing him because he made a great mistake. Okay, within 2 days, I want to ask him one question. By the way, this apostate prophet, he came on another channel, Myth Vision. Okay, and I think they had already talked to Derek on Myth Vision that don't allow the Perfect Dawah comes on. And I went with another name, and then he was very surprised. Derek said, "Oh, you stuck in," or something like this, sticking, and they were very surprised, and he was very nervous, this apostate prophet, and he didn't want to talk to me at all, despite he talked to me twice. But he said, I had a debate with you. I said, no, I was just having friendly dialogue with you, but this time I want to have a debate with you, because within 2 days he decided that I follow a terrorist sect. Okay, so I wanted to ask him, when you cannot, in 21st century, an organization that exists, you cannot solve this problem, that ask me, okay, with one video you decide that this organization that is the greatest organization that I have ever known, 42 years I'm supporting it, and within 2 days you decide that this is a terrorist organization. How come 1400 years ago what happened? So you are a very irrational person. You cannot decide you cannot decide what happened 1400 years ago. At least what you could do was that you would send he had my email, we were talking on email, you should send me, say that this video says like this about your organization, what is your response? Okay, at least after that you could decide, not just without any research, anything. You decide that, oh, this organization, and then even on that Derek when I could 2.5 minutes he gave me, just 2.5 minutes. There he even lied. He said that, no, I never said that this organization is terrorist, and I have it. I'm going to share it, inshallah, tonight. I can share it as well. Yes.
All right. Well,
yes.
Yeah, well,
Anyway,
good luck with it,
thank you very
inshallah,
much, my brother.
when it goes okay. So that's
Yes.
for everybody who wants to watch that. It's going to be perfect dawah with debating who was Muhammad with David Wood on the, what's it called again? The modern day debate.
Modern day debate, yes.
Modern day
I
debate,
will
so-
start, yes. I will start my live, inshallah, in 10 minutes. And
Hmm.
those who, after your stream, inshallah, those who would like to talk to me, Sister Adriana want to talk to me about jinn, I would love to talk to her about that as well. So thank you, my dear brother. I love you very much.
welcome.
Take care. Have a nice day.
Jazakallah khair.
Thank you.
Take care as
Jazakallah.
well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jazakallah. Enjoy your evening.
Jazakallah. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay. I think there was a lively debate going on in the chat about jinn and stuff. Don't want to have to end it for you, but if there's, I don't think I've got anybody else coming on backstage, so I think we'll end it soon. What were you all discussing about? Just because I'm not going to be able to read all of that. Yeah, and that does not mean confining yourself to the house. That's absolutely true. Okay. And before Adam. I don't like David Wood, yes. I don't like him too. It's just become a very toxic. Problem is that there's a faction of these which have become enamored with the debating and the talking against each other and stuff like that. This it's very difficult to extradite yourself from these kind of mentalities. When somebody who's for years and years and years, you're just debating, arguing. وَكَانَ الْإِنسَانُ أَكْثَرَ شَيْءٍ جَدَلًا, the Quran says. The human being is more quarrelsome than anything. Just argue, jidal, and then you lose sight. You find it very difficult then to be able to actually have a sense for the truth and what's right and what's wrong. Because if you spend that long debating and arguing, there's a lot of times where you will deliberately do things in a way which you shouldn't. Okay, and each time you do that, it blinds you more and more to the truth and makes it more difficult. But anyway, what was it that some of these conclusions? What were people saying about jinn? What jinn mean? I think Sayyid Al-Adin, you have some insights into that. I'm just trying to find some sort of a conclusion from somebody just to share it before closing. And if nobody comes on in about a couple of minutes, then I'll end the stream. Okay. All right. Okay. Yes, the perfect dawah. All right, man, you're gonna go and pay me a visit. Go ahead. Al-Adin says, there it is. The jinn means the strangers. Strangers. All right. Okay. It's a little insight for anybody who wants to look that up. Okay, guys, I think we'll end it there. Again, thank you so much for coming on. Let me see. Somebody else said something. Al-Adin, your intro was great. Jazakallah khair. Thank you. All right, yeah, so we'll end it there. Thank you so much for joining me this evening, and inshallah next week. We've only got, last week was number 42. This is number 43. So that's basically nine more weeks until we've done a year. So 9 more weeks until Ramadan. And, alhamdulillah, I think these streams, they've been very good. They've allowed me to put out a lot of thoughts throughout the year, and alhamdulillah, I'm glad I started them. And thank you all for joining them all the time. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, and see you all next week.